So how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. The Minnesota Vikings and Houston Texans just executed a trade that will now see the Vikings in possession of two first round picks for April's NFL draft, picks number 11 and pick number 23. And following the departure of veteran quarterback Kirk Cousins to the Atlanta Falcons, the Vikings could be in line to draft their next franchise quarterback as they now hope to have enough ammo if they need to move up in the first round. Now, the Chicago Bears, Washington Commanders, and New England Patriots, you're talking about the teams that are in possession of the first three picks in April's draft, respectively, and all are expected to take a quarterback, which means that Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels could all possibly be off the board after the third choice. But if you're the Vikings, that leaves picks number 4 and 5 as a possibility if you decide to move up. And I talked about this aspect from the Arizona Cardinals before. They have the fourth overall pick. And then you've got the Los Angeles Chargers, who are at pick number 5. Neither one of these teams are going to be looking to draft a signal caller, as the Cardinals have Kyler Murray while the Chargers have Justin Herbert. And that means both of these teams could potentially be open for business if the right deal comes along. And I expect both of these teams, the Cardinals and the Chargers, to be in the market for either an offensive tackle or a wide receiver, players that they can get later or in the first round in the draft if they decided to move down and still get a value pick while also being able to obtain more assets, in this case, more draft capital. Now, the Vikings have an extra first round pick to dangle out there to possibly get a JJ McCarthy to Minnesota. Up to 6 quarterbacks could be taken in the first round of this draft. And I think, in my opinion, you're looking at Michael Penix and Bo Nix as well. And I think what it's going to take, because I do think we're going to get 6 quarterbacks in the first round. I think all it's going to take is somebody to get desperate to move up and get a guy, and not only get desperate to move up, get desperate, out of fear that somebody else could take their guy. And this could be this moment right here, because let's say that the Vikings, just using them as an example, let's say they decide to trade up. Now there could be a team out there that possibly needs a quarterback, and they're going to get real desperate to possibly get their hands on a Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. before the first round ends. Now, the Vikings posturing right here could also put the onus on a team like the New York Giants. The Giants currently own the sixth pick in April's draft, and most people, myself included, do expect the Giants to select a quarterback. However, New York cannot afford to have a team like Minnesota trade up ahead of them and potentially get their guy. Now, for Vikings general manager Kwesi Adolfo Mensa, he understands this importance of this draft, as Minnesota needs to keep up with the changing landscape in the NFC South. We saw two teams from the NFC North, excuse me. But we saw two teams from the North make the postseason this past year and win a couple of games. The Packers got in as a wild card. They upset Dallas, and they very easily could have beaten San Francisco and gone on to the NFC Championship game. Then you had the Detroit Lions. They won 2 playoff games, got to the NFC Championship game, and very easily could have beaten the Niners as well. The Bears find themselves in a position to possibly turn things around based off of this draft. You look at the Lions with what they're doing and how they want to keep building off of the momentum that they had from last year's playoff run. And then you have the young upstart Green Bay Packers with Jordan Love. If you're the Vikings, you just lost Kirk Cousins. You have arguably the most dynamic receiver at your disposal in the form of Justin Jefferson. You don't want to get lost in the shuffle in this division if you don't have good quarterback play. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Vikings do from this standpoint. Like getting back to the Cardinals and the Chargers, okay, the two teams that are 4 and 5 respectively. Either one of them really, and I mean really, has a chance to come out of this smelling like a rose. And I talked about this with the Cardinals before. We know that the first three picks are going to be quarterbacks. Okay, I think we can say we're 99.99% sure of that. But with that said, if you're the Cardinals, you can take yourself a Marvin Harrison Jr. You can take yourself a Roman Dunze. You can take an offensive tackle. You can trade down and still get a quality offensive tackle, a quality uh, wide receiver, around pick 10 or pick 11, and you still have more draft capital. And in the case of the Cardinals, they already have more draft capital after making a deal last year with the Houston Texans, which allowed the Texans to move up to the third spot to take Will Anderson Jr. Now, if you're the Chargers, we've seen the Chargers, trade and release players and restructure deals because of their cap issues. So they're going to need more depth. And then, of course, you have a new head coach in Jim Harbaugh who's coming in and he wants to find his type of players. Maybe the Chargers can go out there and strike a deal and trade back as well. But nonetheless, this is going to be very interesting. And I think the Vikings just got the ball rolling. And if you're other teams around the league that are looking to take a quarterback potentially in round number one, and you don't have one of those first three picks, this has to be on your radar and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we might have to do something to counter what the Vikings could possibly do. But this is what it's all about. The NFL draft is a big chess match, and we're seeing the Vikings. They just pushed one of their key pieces forward, and let's see what the next counter is going to be. But like it is with the title of this specific podcast, a team that doesn't need a quarterback right now, like the Chargers, like the Cardinals, okay, that are sitting in prime position, they can really come out of this smelling like a rose. So you know what? It's all about getting more bang for your buck, and let's see who's going to be the biggest talker and who's going to be the biggest dealer heading into next month's NFL draft. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365 that you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.